So the topic that we were discussing earlier was peak to average power ratio, and what is this PAPR problem? It is when every now and then certain symbols with high amplitude start occurring in between, forcing the amplifier to operate in a very with a very large operating region, which may not be that much utilized, affecting the power amplifier efficiency. Okay, so that was the issue. So, and if at all you had sent the data as it is without taking IA50, they say the situation wouldn't have occurred. But since you take DFT, what's going to happen? There is a chance that certain set of frequencies, certain set of symbols in a particular frequency add up coherently, causing these kind of issues, which will affect the power amplifier efficiency and end up consuming much more power. Okay, end up consuming much more power. A CCDF revealed that as and when the size of the F50 increased, the probability of such a thing occurring also increased. You can see for same set of probability of such a thing occurring, the average peak to average power ratio, that is deviation from the average value, you can see it's going on increasing from for this is the zero DFT, sending the data as it is without any DFT, okay, which is the conventional communication. And you can see as and when you take DFT 64 to 1024, the additional PAPR that is going to add up, okay, is something like you can see up to 3 to 3.5 dBs. See, remember this in dBs, so in actual number it accounts to some 20 times, 30 times, and so and so. So where does it affect, by the way? So let me tell you, more power consumption is an issue whenever we have limited battery power, and where power is a constraint. So how do we tackle this, by the way? How do we tackle this? So the method is, one of the method to tackle this is to clip the data wherever possible. So what we will do is, wherever possible, now if at all I go for this particular level, see, I would say I will clip all the data above this particular level. Say let me use a clipper. Then what's going to happen? I'm going to simply chop off the data. But then what's going to happen? All the symbols are going to go in error, affecting the symbol error rate or the bit error rate. Not a good idea, right? So whenever you do this clipping, it is not a good idea. Okay, but what that does, by the way, it increases the battery longevity. Okay, it increases the battery longevity and the power consumption indirectly. Okay, so such thing is there. So this was one of the ideas suggested. Peak clipping. Okay, peak clipping was one of the ideas suggested. But then what does it do, by the way, the ratio? Okay, so you can have certain threshold above which you are going to simply cut the data. Okay, simply soft limiting. Okay, truncate the amplitude signal that exceed the clipping level. Okay, so this was suggested. By doing so, what's going to happen is, so you can see if at all the data goes anything above this, then it's going to be limited by that particular factor only, which is not a good idea. And what was the impact of this particular thing, by this? What is the impact? So what would happen is, because of that, you sudden chop of the value in the frequency domain. It is like suddenly cutting the frequency, right? In the frequency domain, it's like, so say I happen to have a sinusoid. Now I limit the positive and negative values. So what's going to happen is, now my data is suddenly going to look like a square wave. Remember, see, whenever the data is chopped, okay. So we encountered a situation in our op amps, right, where you can see the wave would sometimes looks like a sawtooth wave, a square wave for higher amplitudes. Okay, so what this does, it's a sudden change, and this thing emulates in the frequency domain. It causes something called as spectral regrowth. Okay, spectral regrowth. So that is, you can see here what is the impact. If at all this is the original signal, okay, blue is the original signal, okay, which is well behaved in the frequency domain. Now that you clip your signal, the clipped signal is going to have its spectrum spilling. Okay, it's going to have its spectrum spilling in the adjacent range, causing interfrequency intercarrier interference. Okay, this is not good. Always in the frequency domain you are trying to have, you know, your data confined to a particular frequency band, but then the spectral regrowth is occurring here. Okay, and as and when you try to clip at different ratios, of course, to reduce the PAPR by certain dBs, this kind of spectral regrowth is going to occur. Okay, and you can see this is the clipped frequency. Doesn't matter, this curve here is something that is that's what we did not want. We did not want anything outside this particular ratio. This was not called for, but it happens. Logically also, you can see clipping is going to reduce the BER performance also. You can see here bit error rate. The more you clip, the worse they are going to become. Okay, very trivial diagram and suggestive and of course makes sense. Okay, as and when the SN increases, you can see here, as and when you try to limit your BER, the performance is also going to get worse. Okay, so probability of a clip dosing with different clipping ratios. Okay, so then what to do? Because BER also is an important thing, right? So the standard for BER actually is 10 to the power minus 5, more than 10 to the power minus 5. So the other idea that was suggested, or rather that is being implemented in LTE, that is 4G, is to go for OFDM only from a mobile tower to the mobile phone. And with what they decided was, from mobile phone to the tower, if at all the communication is going to occur, they will send the data as it is without taking IFFT. Okay, they will send the data as it is. Okay, what they will do is they will take in the data and they will take the large data, maybe cut them into small pieces. No FFT, remember, no FFT. Cut them into pieces. Of course, add the cyclic prefix also. Because that will add to the guard band, right? That will add to the guard band. It is not going to hurt. Then what they did was, the change what was employed is, at the receiver, since the frequency domain equalization is an important feature that one wants to employ, what they did was they kept the transmitter structure similar to OFDM. What they did was this IFFT was moved from transmitter to receiver in this particular manner. Okay, so you can see what is the difference here, by the way. You simply take in your data, cut them into pieces. Here what you will do, take the data, convert it from serial to parallel, take IFFT, then afterwards parallel to serial, add CP, right? Here nothing, simply take the data, do the modulation, cut them into pieces, add a cyclic prefix, send it onto the channel, but then at the receiver they wanted to use the frequency domain equalization feature, which will occur only when you convert the data in the frequency domain. So IFFT is there anyway, just like it was there in OFDM. Then the moment they convert the data and take the Fourier transform, not FFT, then what's going to happen? The time is again converted into frequency. Now, since you have added CP here, it's going to look like circular convolution only, so that you get to, if the channel is well estimated, you get to do the frequency domain equalization, right? Y divided by H thing. Okay, a single tap frequency domain equalization. Then this IFFT has been moved here, right? The data was converted in frequency domain, you did the frequency domain equalization, again you took IFFT, everything fine. Okay, everything fine. So this is how LTE decided to tackle the issue of PAPR. Remember, do you see your uplink and downlink speeds are they same? By the way, you are trying to download a movie and you are trying to upload a file. Are they same? Usually you might have observed the uplink speed is always, let us see what's your answer. No, usually the uplink speed is very low, usually 5 times less. Okay, 5 times less. This is the reason, because in uplink you always use SCFDMA, which is not that robust to multipath fading, because you can see here itself, since you send it as a single carrier format, you are going to suffer fading. Okay, you are going to suffer fading, but then you get certain immunity. Then you get certain immunity when you do the equalization in the frequency domain here. That is why, since you are suffering fading, you cannot go for larger speeds, just like the you get it in downlink, because in downlink you will be using OFDM. Okay. So this was the method. Okay, got this particular thing. The meaning has not changed. The concept still remains same. The use of cyclic prefix is still justified, because since you are taking IF50 and IF50 here, okay. So addition of the cyclic prefix, of course, with noise now. Okay. Wait a second. I'm just interrupting here. Okay. Sorry. Am I audible? Okay. Okay. So what has happened here is, I hope you understood. So taking IA50, this was the source of PAPR. Okay, this is where there was PAPR issue. Okay, this is where there was PAPR issue. OFDM is a good approach due to two things. Remember, one is because it handles the multipath fading by taking IA50. Second thing is you get to do the equalization in the frequency domain. Okay, these were the two things, which is why we went for OFDM. Okay. So frequency domain equalization, we don't know. SCFD, by the way, does not have this feature of multipath fading handling. Okay. OFDM does not have, SCFDMA does not have the this feature of frequency or this multipath fading, because there is no IF50. Since you did not take IF50, you will not get the advantage of multi-carrier. Okay, but then here you can see now the data is in Fourier transform. Here you get to do frequency domain equalization in a much better manner. So strength of SCFD is in the frequency domain approach. Okay, that is the first comparison. Second one is, if at all I am talking about a mobile phone and a tower, say I am talking about a tower, if at all I am using OFDM at the tower, remember a tower comes with a very big box, and below it comes with a power line, otherwise generator. So taking an IF50, handling the PAPR is not an issue for a tower at all. But now that you use SCFDMA, what's going to happen is this entire process, see, taking an F50 and IF50, both of them. See, this is where the mobile phone is. This is where the tower is. Now, taking FFT and IFFT for the reception, and this is the tower transmission. For this, once again, you are taking FFT. Okay. So all these tasks have now been transferred to the tower from the phone. That is why now your phone battery now is going to long laster, because there is no PAPR problem, because there is no FFT. Then the whole task of doing frequency domain equalization. See, frequency domain equalization is cool, but it is costly, because it's going to consume power, because you have to convert the data to frequency domain, right? You have to take FFT, then you have to take IFFT. But since the mobile towers are supposed to be equipped with lot of power, it is not going to make any difference to the user. So finally, it's the user experience that matters. This is the reason why whenever there is a communication from tower to the mobile phone, they use OFDM, which is called as usually downlink. Downlink transmission, downlink reception is the communication from tower to the mobile phone. Whereas in the uplink transmission and uplink reception, which is from the mobile phone to the tower, they use this thing called as SCFDE. Okay, got this particular thing. So not so different, but not same either. Okay, not same either. So this was the way. Even in 5G, SCFD, the single carrier version, is what that is used for communication from mobile phone to the tower. Okay, it is the communication still preferred. Okay, I hope you got this particular thing. So they are telling what are the benefits. By the way, maintains benefits is low complexity even for severe multipath channels, excellent BER performance. Yes, it is very similar. Okay, very similar. Low complexity in the sense there is no complexity, no FFT, IFFT taken, right? Decoupling ISM from other types of interference. Okay, so what's going to happen is inter-symbol interference problem and all other things like inter-carrier interference, then the noise, all will be separated from each other, which is useful when using multiple antenna transmissions, maybe at the tower side. Okay, maybe from the mobile phone to the tower. I am also not convinced at this particular point. Maybe later when we study mine, this will be convinced. Okay. PAR. Okay, this is the reason, by the way. PAR is reduced significantly. Peak to average power is reduced significantly. Okay, that is one of the feature. Okay, so SCFD remaining things same. The cyclic prefix still useful. Cyclic prefix still useful. Okay. Say after IFFT single one tap frequency domain equalization. This they have been telling you. Also be curious and try to explore what is this one tap equalizer. Okay, I understand that one tap equalizer is just a single number rather than a polynomial will be there for the division. That's what I understood by that particular term. Okay. Then what else? Okay. So that's about the OFDM, SCFD versus OFDM. Okay. So noise enhancement issues. This also we discussed earlier, that they said there is no such thing that is as expected, because noise effect is also not going to enhance that much, right? It was told earlier. Okay. Then what else is there? An obvious difference is that here, this is the point. SCFD has low complexity transmitter. Our phone is simplified. The hardware in the phone is simplified, but the complexity, high complexity receiver. See, this high complexity receiver is referring to the towers, the EPC module. Okay. What we studied in the first module, that will be there in the tower only. So it is not balanced, but an unbalanced architecture, we should say. Okay. That was about OFDM and something similar called as SCFDE. Now let us see the multiple access versions of OFDMA and the multiple access versions called as OFDMA and SCFDMA. Before going to this, let me just ask you, what do you understand the difference between FDM versus FDE? FDMA. Will somebody tell me what is the difference between FDM and FDMA, or TDM versus TDMA? I just want to know what do you understand by these two terms, TDM versus TDMA. What do you understand? CSMA, CSMA-CD. Remember that you studied something called as CSMA-CD. You studied something called as Aloha. You remember Aloha? What is Aloha? Aloha, slotted Aloha. Do you remember what are those things? Will somebody tell me? Do you remember what is this Aloha and what is slotted Aloha? Do you remember? Sushma, just type in a hi. Sushma and Ranjana, type in a hi. Sushma, yeah. What is Aloha and what is slotted Aloha? Do you remember these terms? CSMA, CD, collision detection, something like that. Do you remember what are those? In which topic did we study those things? Do we? Okay. So multiple access is when you want to allocate. Now, suppose say there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 channels. Say Airtel in one particular tower, there are some 8 parallel channels that are supposed to be, that are free. That means 8 calls. Now, how are you going to allocate users to this calls? Okay, that is called as multiple access. It comes with the rules and regulations. It comes with a protocol. Okay, multiplexing refers to a general combining, I should say. Multiple access is how among several set of users that are going to be there temporarily, how are you going to assign the data to a particular set of users, say. Okay. That's why, even that's not convincing one, I guess, right? It's not even convincing one. But anyway, there are two types of multiple access that we have studied as of now, I should say. One is the conventional random access, another is multiple access. So in this typical multiple access, that means on one side there is FDMA, TDMA, and CDMA. Then on other side there is this thing called as CSMA CD, CSMA, Aloha, slotted Aloha. So the difference is in Aloha and slotted Aloha, the users will send the data as and when they wish. Okay, they simply put in their address along in the packet. They put in the address. They simply transmit. Okay, they flood sometimes or they transmit. They may not reach the receiver. Okay, they may or they may not reach the receiver. So that is called as random access. Okay, so then the technology was kept on. What if there is a need for retransmission? What if the channel is not free, right? So it was fine-tuned Aloha, slotted Aloha. Then things kept on what is that token ring, right? Then there is this CSMA. CSMA is a much better version where there is a method for detect the collision. If at all there was collision, then they will be asking for retransmission, right? ARQ, that is where that word ARQ and CRC. Remember, what was that CRC? CRC was the thing used, a tool used to understand if there is any bit that has gone in error. Okay, and what was the method to correct? No correction. They will simply ask for retransmission. Okay, that was the method. Whereas these methods here, by the way, these are a sort of synchronous, I should say. Okay, they are synchronous methods where a particular slot, a particular time instant, or the frequency, or the time assigned with a particular code is fixed. Okay, for a particular user, as and when the call starts, a resources will be allocated till the call is finished. Okay, whereas in Aloha and slotted Aloha or your CSMA CD, resources are not allocated. People will go on flooding the data as and when they are ready. Okay. So that is the difference, I would say, between this FDMA, TDMA, and CDMA compared to the random access, schemes. Okay. Let us see. Let us continue. And what do you understand by CDMA, TDMA? So what is the difference, by the way? So I gave you a very small task, right? Homework where somebody I asked to understand what was used, which random access was used in 2G and 3G. Okay, I hope you have done this particular task. So let me tell you anyway, let's not combine those things here. In TDMA, what's going to happen is, so which is this particular thing you can see here is frequency. This is FDMA where users, okay, where users or a block of subcarriers, whatever that is called, they are separated in frequency. They are separated in frequency. Okay, entire user data will be separated in frequency, but the data will be kept on sent all the time. Okay, whereas in case of time division multiplexing, what's going to happen is the user data will be separated in time. Okay, user data will be separated in time. Okay, so this is the case of user in FDMA. In TDMA, we will not have this entire frequency, but in different time instants. In 2G, GSM especially, what they did was they used a combination where it was a combination of frequency domain also, where different frequencies were assigned, but then within a set of frequencies, the user were not a single user, not occupying the entire frequency band all the time. Instead, he was using the thing in a time divided manner, So this here was a combination of FDMA with TDMA. Then above this, there came CDMA, where they are separated both in time and frequency. But then again, the individual users, there were several users which were using this particular thing even vertically. They were using this thing even vertically, and they were separated now in terms of a code. Okay, they were separated in terms of a PN sequence. Okay, that means now user one will also be using a particular set of frequency and a particular set of time instant, and user 2 will also using the same set, but then both of them will be separated by a different PN sequence. So if user 1 wants to use the data, he has to go to the same time frequency slot, then he had to correlate with his PN code. User 2 also has to do the same. Why it was done, by the way? Why CDMA was done? It was done simply to increase the user capacity. So because having another domain is always cool, right? Having a third domain is always better. Okay, so that's what a CDMA. So I hope you have studied the CDMA and TDMA, FDMA, right, together. So I'm not go much into it. Let us go to the one at hand, which is our CDMA. Okay, sorry, it is OFDMA. Okay, the one at our hand is OFDMA. So this is the block diagram of CDMA. So in CDMA, do you remember CDMA? There were two types. What are the types? CDMA was type of spread spectrum, right? There was direct sequence and there is frequency hop. Frequency hop, I think it's used in I think Zigbee or Bluetooth. Direct sequence spread spectrum is usually the one which is used in CDMA. Okay, so tomorrow what we will do in the next class, we will start with OFDMA, the multiple access version of OFDM. How the set of users, because remember OFDM, orthogonal frequency division multiplexing, is by a single user only. OFDMA is how a set of subcarriers can be allocated to multiple users, so that at the receivers they can be easily separated also. Okay, so let us do this exercise tomorrow. And once again, I'm telling that if at all you want to